Everybody. Kimberly Lebbing here, and today I'm going to talk to you about 5 shifts that every business owner and entrepreneur should know to be even more successful. And excuse me while I forgot to pull this down, so let me pull down my microphone so you can hear me even better. So really quickly, these are shifts that literally you can make today. There are things that you have probably maybe heard before, maybe you haven't, but they are things that you can easily shift. But if you don't know they're there, you don't know about them, or they're not front of mind, you may not even know to do it, and how you might be sabotaging your business and your success by not having or not being aware of these shifts. Really quick, I want to just give you just some background about some of this because when I became an entrepreneur over 20 years ago, I really struggled in those first few years, first several years, really. And I just didn't realize how much of my past programming, the stuff that happened back here, but it landed here. I didn't realize how much that affected me. And it came out in my internal language. It came out in my behaviors, my actions, literally everything I did. And I had no idea. And I worked really, really hard for years trying and trying and trying to resolve it. And it really wasn't until I started learning more about how our brain works that I started to intentionally work on it. And then that's when, I started becoming more excited about this thing of neurolinguistics and how much it can help shift people and how it can shift people really quickly. So that's kind of my backstory on this. But these 5 shifts should really make a difference for you. So I want to go ahead and get started. And the very, very first one is to avoid resistant triggers. And what do I mean by resistant triggers? Like, what is that? So resistant triggers are words that we use in our language all the time. And they are words like should, have to, need to, like I should make some calls today, or I need to do this thing today. Whenever you preface something that you have to do with should, have to, need, it lands in your subconscious brain or up here. It lands as like feeling guilt. They are scarcity type words, and they can really set us back. So if you instead, whatever task it is you have to do, just keep in mind that if you say, I want to, or I will, or I must. I have a good friend that taught me that word, must, and the importance of it is, I must do this today, or I will do this today, or I want to, instead of I need to. It lands differently in your subconscious mind, and you have a different reaction. It makes your subconscious mind feel more excited about it instead of dreading it. And one thing to remember about our subconscious is it's almost like we have like this 8-year-old living in our head. And it responds that way. It's very, very literal. So literally what we say, either in our head or out loud, both count, make a huge difference. So you want to be aware of those resistant triggers. And instead of using those words like I need to, or I have to, or should's such a guilt word, switch to I want to, I get to is another great way to say it. I must. That's a huge shift and very, very simple to make. Number two is to remove negative affirmations. Now, who would on purpose say a negative affirmation? Well, because I know you know about positive affirmations. we actually do this all the time. We are just not aware of, or it's subconscious, and we aren't even aware that we're doing it. So what I mean by that is we say things that we don't want. We'll say things like, you wake up in the morning and you say, "Oh, I'm tired." That affects your neurology when you say that. You're affirming what you don't want. So switch up, pay attention to the words that you're saying. If you're saying things like, I'm always late, or I am this, anything negative that you're saying about yourself is affirming the thing that you don't want. And guess what? We have this little thing in our brains called the reticular activating system. And whenever and it's the part of your brain that helps you focus. It's the reason why if you buy a new vehicle, let's say it's my husband just got a white Tacoma. So let's say it's a white Tacoma. All of a sudden you're noticing white Tacomas everywhere. Same thing happens here. It's that part of the brain that causes us to focus. So when you are affirming things that are negative, you're going to see more negative. So stop doing that and focus on the positive things. So one of the things that my kids grew up with, and I also share this with clients, is say it the way you want it. Say what you want, not what you don't want. And I can't say how important that is because it's really huge. Our brains don't process negatives. They don't. If I tell you don't think about a pink elephant, what are you thinking about? You can't not do it. And a lot of times we tell ourselves the things that we don't want. So remove those negative affirmations and replace them with what you want instead. So let's say you have a habit of forgetting your keys. And so the old you would say, I don't want to forget my keys, or I don't want to forget to do this. You're affirming what you don't want. So instead say, I want to remember my keys. So then you're focusing on the thing that you want, and it activates that. Either way, you're activating that part of your brain. So either way you're doing it, it's just you want to be intentional about it. Okay. Number 3 is universals. You want to stop using universal words. And what universal words are, and you may have heard this before, those are words like always, never, everybody, nobody. And sometimes we do this in our business, like we'll say something, nobody's picking up the phone today, or nobody's answering my calls today, or everybody's this, or everybody's that. And that's something, when you put a universal word and apply it to everything, again, your brain focuses on that and you get more of what you focus on. It's plain and simple. So you want to remove those words. Ask yourself those questions too. Is it really everybody? Is it really nobody? I mean, because most of the time it is not. And most of the time it's temporary. So you have to think about things before you put it out there, because your brain is literal and it will follow suit. Okay. Point number 4 is to leave the past behind you. So what I mean by that is whenever you're dealing with, let's say you're trying to develop a new habit, or there's some area that you're wanting to improve in your business, maybe even it's your personal life. You want to be more consistent. You want to, whatever it is, instead of saying it's saying what you don't want, but refer to it as in the past. So I'm going to use the example of stress eating. I was talking to somebody earlier about weight loss and the mindset behind that, because sometimes there's internal blocks going on. So let's say we'll just use the example of stress eating. If you say, I stress eat, again, you're triggering that part of your brain, or, whatever it is. Maybe it's something in your business, or I don't like making sales calls. Refer to it instead as in the past. In the past, I really didn't like doing sales calls, or in the past, I used to stress eat. Refer to it as in the past, because that triggers your brain. It does something to your brain, the focus, to make it makes your brain think outside the boundaries that it was previously in, to think, oh, there's a new way, like something else is coming. So it's definitely something you can do that's really easy. So if you have a habit that you want to fix or implement, whatever that old behavior was, refer to that old behavior as the old behavior or in the past. And that's a big clue. And you may even hear me say that about old behaviors. I say that a lot when I talk with clients and when I'm on trainings like this, because I want you to think about it as an old behavior. Okay, and then number 5 is how you ask yourself questions. So sometimes during the day we get frustrated in our moments or whatever it is that we're trying to do, and we end up asking questions like, why isn't this happening? Why am I not doing this or whatever in my business or my personal life? And if you just simply change the words to how instead of why, it can make a huge, huge difference, because how triggers your brain to look for solutions. Why triggers your brain to look for problems. And I'm not talking about the Simon Sinek find your why type of why. That's different, and that's valuable. What I'm talking about is the why. I'm going to go back to stress eating because it's an easy example. Why did I eat that bag of potato chips? Triggers, well, because you don't have, I don't know, whatever you want to say about that. But you can see what I mean. It goes into negatives of, well, it's because this, you're this, you're this, you're this. If you ask instead, how can I feed my body in a healthy way? That triggers a different response. And you can apply that to business. You can apply that to personal relationships. Anytime, even like in the case of personal relationships, why is this person treating me this way? Instead, ask how. How can I better understand this person? That's a great question to ask when you're dealing with someone that maybe you don't see eye to eye with. Because if you can ask, how can you understand? Then your brain will start to look, and you'll be able to communicate better with that person. And you know what? A lot of times they will sense that, and everything else will go much better just because of that simple shift. So I really hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. And I just want to thank you for listening today. Have an awesome afternoon.